Hey guys, it's Adrian BHA here, bringing you the last video for January 2020. So I did manage to cover all the videos that I thought I was going to cover in my January status update video. But this is going to be about Rokus, specifically controlling Rokus in Home Assistant. So as I said before, I managed to pick up a couple of these Rokus on Black Friday, this previous November. I think they were probably like half of the price listed here on Amazon. I got them pretty cheap. Basically, I have some older Fire TV sticks. They were getting a little sluggish. I felt like you push the buttons and they did not respond very quickly, so it was kind of disappointing. Overall, obviously, the Fire Sticks have way more capabilities, but if you're just looking for something to watch Plex on and Netflix and all that kind of stuff, then Roku's work great, and they are very controllable in Home Assistant, which makes them even better. So we're going to give them a shot. Now, these are fairly easy to set up in Home Assistant. In fact, probably easier than we're even going to cover here in this video if you're willing to use the discovery and all that kind of stuff. But here's the Home Assistant page for Rokus. Just kind of gives a rundown of what all you can do with the Rokus, which, as you can see, there is a ton of stuff that you can control, even with Roku TVs. So, I mean, if you have one of those, this whole setup will work for Roku TVs as well. Then you'll be able to create automations and whatnot and everything from adding these into Home Assistant. So let's do a quick run through of everything we're going to cover in this video. For starters, we're going to get right down to it. We are going to manually add the Rokus into Home Assistant. So instead of using your Home Assistant discovery method, we're actually going to just manually add the Roku component into our configuration.yaml file. Just one extra step. You don't have to do it this way. This is the way that I choose to do it, and so I thought I'd run through this with you. Once we get those added, then we are going to basically show you how they work with just the media player in Home Assistant. So kind of show you what that looks like in action. Once we do that, we are going to create a couple of test scripts, just utilizing the remote feature that's going to be added into Home Assistant as well. When you add a Roku into Home Assistant, it creates two components. It creates a media player component and a remote component. These test scripts are going to show us how to take advantage of the remote component that it adds. And lastly, I'll show you what those scripts look like and how they function in action. So let's get started. So as I said previously, we're going to add these in manually into our Home Assistant configuration. So we will be doing that by editing our configuration.yaml file here. We're going to find an open spot down here towards the bottom. And it's a real easy way to set these up. So basically, the component type is Roku. And then from there, we're just going to list out the IP addresses of the different Roku devices. So I have two of them on my network. So we'll say dash host colon 10.10.10.16 is one of them. And then the second one is 10.10.10.17. So once we get those added in there, we'll go ahead and save it. And then we're going to jump over to our Home Assistant web interface here. We'll just check the config to make sure everything looks good. And then, of course, restart Home Assistant for the changes to take effect. Give that a second to come back up. And one last thing I want to do is, as you can see in the configuration.yaml file, there's no way to name them this way. I'm not quite sure why they don't have that ability as part of the Roku component, but what we're going to do is basically go into entities inside the configuration settings here. We'll find the two devices. They should come up with pretty generic names. Looks like Roku Express and Roku Express 2. And we'll go ahead and modify them so that we know where they are. So I know that this first one that I added was in the kitchen. So we'll say Kitchen-Roku And the second one is in my guest room. We'll say guest Roku. And I'm not going to do it here, but you would probably want to do that for the remote component as well. So as you can see, there are two more devices, remote.Roku Express and Roku Express 2 as well. Just to keep everything consistent, you'll probably want to change those to match whatever you did with the other ones. Let's move on to the next step. All right, so just to show you what that media player component looks like with it added into Home Assistant, as you can see here, I got my kitchen TV up and online, and the media player component in Home Assistant. It currently shows the home page, so I can go through and change the source. Let's select Disney Plus, and as you can see, it's almost instantaneous. Pulls up Disney Plus. Everything looks good there. It came right up. We'll go ahead and switch back to the home screen. And of course, as you can see, it immediately switched back. So if that's all you wanted, you're pretty much done. You don't have to do anything else. You now have media player control. You can pause, stop, you can change the source all from this media player, and that's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything else, and you are done. But like I said, if you want to see how to create some test scripts that you'll be able to use with automations and whatnot, then let's move on to that next step. All right, so here are some of the abilities that you could do with that remote component that got created. So we'll just pick one of these that we can see visually. That way I can test it out and show you how well it works. I'm going to just choose like the down arrow, something simple. So I'm going to edit my testscripts.yaml file here. I'm just going to call this test Kitchen-Roku Down because that's going to use that down arrow. Let's see, alias, we'll give it the same name. All right, so for the service, this will be remote.send_command. And then, of course, for the entity ID, it'll be the remote.kitchen_Roku command. I'm going to say down. Once we have all that in there, we can go ahead and save it. All right, so we're going to create one more test script. Now, the other script that I wanted to do is some sort of script that will automatically start up Netflix. Pretty simple, easy to do, but in order to do that, we need to have the source or app ID of Netflix on the Roku device. And so back on the Home Assistant page for Rokus, there's a web page right here that if you go to this IP address on your home network, you can see all the apps running on your Roku. And as you can see here, I've already done it. And then this is what comes up. It lists out all the different apps that I currently have installed. Netflix is up there at the top, and it is app ID 12. So now we can go back to our testscripts.yaml file here, and we're going to create one more test script. We'll say test Kitchen-Roku Netflix. Alias, I'll give it the same name. For the service this time, it's actually using the media player.select source. So it's not actually using the remote component, it actually is using media player. For the data, the entity ID, of course, is media player.kitchen_Roku. And then the source is that app ID that we just looked up, which for Netflix was 12. We'll go ahead and save it. And we'll jump back over to our web interface here. We'll do a check config. And then we're just going to reload scripts. That's all that we should have to do for this, for those scripts to get loaded into Home Assistant. While that's doing that, we're going to jump over to the last step. All right, so here we are. Got the Kitchen-Roku here again up in the corner. You can see the two scripts that we created. The top one is the down arrow script that we created, and the one below that is for Netflix. So if I just hit this script, as you can see, every time I hit it, it's moving down, it's changing the menu down the screen. Pretty easy, nothing special to it, but just showing you how well it works. Next, if we execute the Netflix script, boom, it immediately jumps up and wants me to pick my username in Netflix because it is ready to go. That's it, guys. So this is a quick video, and not a whole lot to this video. Really just wanted to run through a Roku setup and show you what some of the features that you can do with Roku. I haven't done a video on Rokus before, so I thought I would throw this one out there. For me, the Roku is definitely way more responsive than the old Fire Sticks were. Don't have all the functionalities that I had with the Fire Sticks, but for the two places that I use these, we really only use it for streaming media. So that's really all it's needed for. I don't need any other special features, so I'm okay with that. Let's do a quick run through everything we covered in this video. So, of course, for starters, we added the Roku into Home Assistant. Once we did that, I kind of showed you what that looked like with just the media player component added and how well it functions within Home Assistant. After we did that, then we created a couple of test scripts just to show you some additional ways that you can utilize these components and control the Rokus within Home Assistant. And then lastly, I showed you what those scripts look like in action. That's the end of the video, guys. Again, this is not a super long video, nothing really hard or difficult to it. Just wanted to run through a Roku setup and show you how you can utilize your Rokus within Home Assistant and on your smart home network. If you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comments below. As always, if there are any videos out there that you would like to see that I don't already have out there, let me know in the comments as well, and I'll see if I can't get something put together for you guys. Otherwise, I'll see you guys around. Thanks.